You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we're going to give you a story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm the bad boy of X-Men podcasting, Zack Jenkins. Hi, Adam.
Hey, how you doing? Did you figure out how to play dominoes yet?
Didn't even try a little bit.
I still don't really understand it myself. You know, I think you pick them out of a bag, and then I also learned that the little dots are known as pips. That's important.
I did know that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I didn't really give it enough time to research because we just recorded the last episode Thursday. I don't know when
This is exciting content for you and me and not our listeners because, Adam, it has been a short time since we've recorded last.
It has been, but we've read some fun stuff in between because this week we are talking all about the super spy, amazing character known as Domino.
Domino, also known as Nina Thurman.
Yup. Mm-hmm.
Also known as Beatrice.
Yep. Sometimes known as Beatrice, and we'll get into why this episode.
Also known as Samantha Wu. Also known as Tamara Winter. Also known as Elana Valdescu. Also known as Jessica Marie Costello. Also known as Luisa Mendoza. Also known as Christina Elizabeth Alicio. Also known as Priscilla Sutherland. Also known as Hope Eldritch. And also known, of course, as Olivia Blomquist.
Oh my goodness. So many aliases. And it's so funny. I mean, this is a character who literally her first appearance was not her actual first appearance, right? Just for the end of New Mutants all the way through the first 10 issues of X-Force, she's copycat. And then we learned that Domino has actually been held captive this entire time by, what was it, Tolliver? I think
Mr. Tolliver. Yeah, it was Mr.
Tolliver.
Also known as Genesis, also known as Cable's kid.
Wild stuff happening there. So Domino kind of shows up just as a side character and Cable's, love interest / sidekick /
she's the breakout character of New Mutants 98.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Gideon, but no, it wasn't.
That cover is amazing. But
not really an origin story. We get a little bit about the history with the six pack. So this week,
her origin is mercenary. Hot mercenary lady for an action movie.
Yeah, we're going to get a little bit more into who Domino is and some of her rollicking adventures.
We are. And do you know why we're going to do that, Adam?
I assume thanks to one of our lovely patrons.
Maybe a lovely patron like Matt McThorne. If you want to be like Matt, you can go over to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom. And folks, reach down into your hearts and pocketbooks and toss a couple of coins into our coffers. It really helps. And you get a stupid episode. You get us doing dumb stuff for 45 minutes to an hour. And that's what keeps us going. It's that cold hard cash. See, I'm in sales. They say something about salespeople and that we are coin operated, and that is not false.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like that.
They just give us money and we're like, we'll do things now. It's
we're basically
great. Other people have to do their real job. Wild.
Absolutely insane. So this week we are going to be talking about all three of Domino's solo books, starting with one I don't think a lot of people have read, and this is Domino Volume 1.
I think this is, well, you know what? I think by sheer volume, more people may have read this Domino than any of the other stories in our series because this came out in 1996, a time when there were more comic sales.
Maybe that is a good possibility. We're sort of in the Onslaught era here with this.
We are post Onslaught at this point. So it is after the comics boom and the the bubble it's
Mhm.
burst,
It sure has. Yeah. Marvel's
which is,
not doing so hot.
but we still have a Domino series written by Ben Robb with pencils by David Perrin.
Mhm.
Adam, this would have been a little bit past your comics reading prime. Am I correct to say that?
Yeah, I don't think I was actively reading the books at this time. So this was not one that was on my radar, but it makes sense. Like X-Force was extremely popular even into this period of time, and so was Cable. So it makes sense to give Domino her own book. She's exciting. She has a mysterious past, and well, I don't know if this book so much delivers on the promise of exploring things about Domino that we didn't know. It sure is trying to deliver on sex appeal, because the very first time we see Domino in the first issue, she's basically in a string bikini at what is she at Mardi Gras? I guess, like, just
Yeah,
cut
down in
loose.
Brazil.
Yeah, sure. I guess
She's at Carnival. No, she's at Carnival, not Mardi. Wait, what are you talking about?
Okay.
Mardi Gras? That's in New Orleans.
Oh, she's in Rio de Janeiro. I don't
Yes.
know.
Okay, before I was going to say people, but I really mean our friend Rob at us. Yes, we understand that Mardi Gras and Carnival are celebrating the
Yes,
exact same time in the Advent calendar. Not the Advent calendar. Is it the Advent calendar?
I
No,
don't
that's
know.
the Christmas one. The liturgical calendar or whatever.
There you go.
It's the one before Lent.
Yes. And you'll be forgiven for me mixing up these locations, because it's not like the art is giving you a lot of hints on what is going on in the background here. We get a couple of costumed characters and a lot of shadows. Um, there's no real indication of
On
location other than the
locations,
narration bubble.
I think that's fair. I was actually pleasantly surprised with Perrin's art in this. Like, it's still recognizably 90s, but it had a good energy to it. And I would have liked to see more of what this artist would have done. Unfortunately, doesn't work at Marvel after this, or much anywhere
It's
from a comics
fine.
side.
It's kind of just regular workman's art. I think that it is really trying to push the whole she's definitely wearing a G-string provocative pose type stuff that I guess is supposed to be pushing this character, which I don't know. Like, as time has gone on, different artists and writers have treated the sexiness of Domino in very, very different ways. It's This is an interesting kind of start to that approach. Like, her costume here is, I think, a little bit odd. It is, kind of a two-piece, like, athletic wear, a crop top with long sleeves and short shorts. But then over top of the short shorts, she has, again, another G-string. So it's just, I don't know. There's some odd aesthetics to this book that don't
I
work for
wouldn't
me.
I wouldn't call it the best Domino costume.
Oh, it's pretty bad.
Because I would say that over time, people have struggled to give Domino a unique identity that is also good.
I agree.
I
Because
think there's
she's
one
usually,
very, very big exception to that, but
yeah.
that's a more recent one. We'll get to that
um,
later.
but we are starting to get a little bit of Domino's background fleshed out here, including, where did the Thurman come from? And the answer to that is a con
Some
man
guy.
Rastafarian who lives in a Henry Gyrick prison. Interesting. Not what I
He lives in the
expected.
Henry Gyrick prison now. He didn't always live in the Henry Gyrick prison.
No, but he supposedly is a, future teller, a seer. He knows how to predict the future. His power is actually not real. He's faking, and he really just sort of makes things up, which I think is
Which
kind of funny.
I think it's great. He also really loves what the book calls Dante's Inferno, but as we all know, even if we don't know which one Advent is, Dante's Inferno is simply part of the Divine Comedy. It is not a standalone work. It must be taken in the context of everything else, including Paradiso. But it's the coolest part because it's the hell part.
It's the only part that's really readable, right? Like Purgatorio, it's fine. Paradiso, straight up boring, guys. Not exciting. And I think that
excuse me, Adam, you're talking to somebody who would be like, oh, I would absolutely read the Book of Enoch. So do you think that I wouldn't be into Paradiso?
Listen, Inferno's fun, right? It's got all these famous faces. People are being tortured in exciting ways,
It's
right?
got Dante being catty. Being like, actually, you're going to hell. You're going to hell. You're going to hell.
Yeah. Paradiso, if I remember correctly from reading that in college, is like a whole volume of just like, yay, angels and light. And it's like, yeah, I don't care. This is not exciting at all.
I don't know what you think heaven is supposed to be.
I know, but that's why it's not exciting, right? It's like,
it's mostly,
anyway.
Well, we're not going to get into what the Christian Bible says about heaven and what is culturally brought to it from other sources. In fact, if we want to talk about that, we should more talk about what the Christian Bible says about hell and how much of that is really what Dante made up.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. What
irrelevant
really
to all of this, by the way.
Yeah. What really makes me laugh though is that, okay, so Milo Thurman, Nina's ex-husband, is obsessed with this book, right? To the point where he nicknames Domino Beatrice after the book. And the book has nothing to do with this story. There is no symbolism embedded in this story that has anything to do with Dante's Inferno or the history of these characters. So part of me is like, okay, did Ben Robb like read one book for AP English in high school and like that's why it's in this story?
What is a famous romance that I, Ben Robb, know?
Right? And that's the one you picked? It's like, okay.
I want to say that the name Beatrice was there first. So this is more Ben Robb trying to justify it. But that's a wild way to justify it when you could have been like, oh, that's her name.
Right.
It's just her name's Beatrice.
That's her birth name. Sure.
Her mom was very religious. Just make it be that.
Oh my God. It just makes me laugh. You know what I mean? Because usually when an author brings in another work, it like has something to do with the story they're trying to tell. And this does not.
It's trying to hit you over the head with it being like, no, do you understand the symbolism here? There's a reason this person is reading Animal Farm right now. And no, dude's just reading the Divine Comedy.
He's bored. It's the book he's got.
He's really bored. And as a reader of Domino Volume 1, I empathize with him.
So you weren't thrilled by the cameos of Lady Deathstrike and who else is here?
Donald Pierce.
Skullbuster.
Skullbuster.
Thank you.
I did like it when Skullbuster shows up. But that's just because I don't actually think Donald Pierce and Lady Deathstrike running the Reavers is very interesting. The Reavers as some robot dudes is very funny to me. Obviously, not the best of the Reavers. We don't have to say it. We all know. We all know who the best Reaver is. Bonebreaker. We all know it's Bonebreaker. Bonebreaker's the one with the tank treads.
Yeah. So glad you didn't say, what's that guy's name? Pretty Face? What's
Pretty
the
Boy.
One that like Pretty Boy.
It's Pretty Boy, yeah. Macone, Reese, Bonebreaker, Skullbuster.
Oh my God.
Cole
Donald
is the other.
Donald Pierce reveals that he survived the events of what is it? X-Men Uncanny 181 or
181.
280.
No, 281.
281. Thank you.
We're great at numbers.
Oh my God. We don't know how to play dominoes or count. But his evil plan here is that he's trying to download Milo's powers, and then he wants to download Domino's powers too, I guess, right? Is that what's going on here?
And then also turn them into robots. Listen.
Oh, right. They're going to be robots too.
Listen, Ben Robb is writing this book. The plotting is as clear as that statement would entail.
that's all that happens. Like, and unfortunately, Domino can't save Milo. She ends up blowing this like evil lair up, walking away from the explosion, and hanging out at Carnival with Milo's copy of Dante's Inferno. Did I also mention that Puck is in this story and
Puck shows up.
A villain named Pico, who we were supposed to remember from X-Force 14?
I don't know how you didn't remember that character from X-Force 14. Pico or his brother Nico?
I went back and I just glanced through X-Force 14 and I was like, this is not an important character. How are we supposed to remember who this was? So weird. Oh.
Man, I don't know. You think I'm gonna remember or like late era Rob Liefeld characters? And by late era, I just mean 1992 as opposed to 1991.
Yeah, I don't even know if Pico is Liefeld. I mean, I think that's just an Nicieza creation at that point. Like, that's after Rob leaves the book, so I don't know who made up Pico. Should I be worried about Pico?
I don't think. But here's what I'll say: I don't think that Steve Orlando often thinks about Pico, and that tells you
that's
the level of minor X-Men character that he is.
That's true.
Steve Orlando, man. The guy that remembered the really like bondage guy from right before Frank Thierry's Wolverine.
Yep.
And put him in a comic, which I want to be clear, I laughed about because I thought that was the greatest thing.
Yes.
You don't care about Pico.
No, and this is not a good book. I don't know that even if you're a diehard Domino fan, you even need to look at this. It's not interesting. Doesn't add much to her character or her backstory. If you really need to know where the Thurman came from, this is the story for you. But aside from that, I don't know that
this guy
Ben
dated for a
accomplishes
little
anything.
bit.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
They dates. They go on a spy mission, quote unquote.
This story's bad and dumb.
It is.
Which is to say it's an X-Men story.
Yes, a Ben Robb X-Men story, and it ain't great. So we should probably try and rank it on our big old list.
Yeah, because that's the thing about our big old list, Adam. Our big old list is great. And now that we've exited our Attitude Era, we can give this list and the stories on it the respect and love they deserve.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah, everybody. Number 1 on the list is House of X Power of 10. Number 100 is Wolverine, the Shiva scenario. Number 200 is Jean Grey Psych Ward. Number 300 is Cap Wolf. Number 400 is the first arc of Saladin Ahmed's Exiles. Number 500 is Uncanny X-Force Otherworld. Number 600 is Generation M. Number 700 is the Romulus arc from Wolverine Origins. Number 800 is X Factor Special Prisoner of Love. And the worst X-Men story of all time is at 825, 2099 Word of Tomorrow.
Yeah, this is pretty bad. I'm looking kind of low on the list.
Listen, at 700, it's that Romulus arc, and I think that Romulus arc better.
I would agree. There's not a lot happening here. This story does not have much of a pulse. So I think we're, at the bare minimum, we're in the 700s here. I would rather...
It's better or worse than Black Sun?
This isn't as bad as Black Sun. Black Sun is down at 767. How do you feel about it next to the Wolverine story we ranked last week, Frank Thierry with Mr. X? I think that's at least trying more.
And that says something, because that story's not trying much.
Yeah.
I would tend to agree with that. I have highlighted 2 nothing stories. Spider-Man and X-Factor Shadow Games and Psylocke and Archangel Crimson Dawn.
Yeah, that's about where we're at.
We're right there. Those are at 754 and 55 respectively. Right above them is X-Women. I have to give X-Women the nod on this because that's not a good book, but it is. X-Women does exactly what they wanted it to do. The question is, should it have?
Yeah. And it's also similarly objectifying its characters in a way that Domino is being objectified in this particular story as well. So I am gonna say maybe this is in between those two. So this could be our new 754, or do you think it's lower?
It's like right there. I don't know. I'm not. Do you think I think about? That's the thing. I don't think about Shadow Games. I don't think about the Psylocke and Archangel Crimson Dawn. I don't think about Domino Volume 1. It can go here. That's fine.
Perfect. All right, great. let's move on to a very nice surprise. A book.
Y'all don't know about Domino Volume 2, do you?
If you have not read this book, like neither of us had you read this, Zach?
I've read it multiple times. And
Okay.
Adam, just to be clear, I had the same reaction as you. I just had it several years ago.
Okay.
I was like, oh, no one talks about how great this is.
Never knew this even existed. And holy cow, Domino Volume 2. Wow. What a huge improvement from Volume 1. What's our creative team here?
We got Joe Pruitt writing it.
Yep.
He very specifically says he's doing the script. And the storytellers are Joe Pruitt and partner and artist Brian Stelfreeze.
Nice.
I know people know that Brian Stelfreeze is a good artist. Brian Stelfreeze is a good freaking artist.
I am so blown away by the art in this book. And it's so interesting. I want to go back to the credits, though, because the way that things are credited is supposed to be like a film, right?
Yeah.
So the screenplay is Joe Pruitt. The cinematography is Brian Stelfreeze. And what you're already evoking, even before you get to the very first page, is we're going to be watching a sick spy movie. We're going to be watching this espionage thriller, and it is going to really like live up to what it is that we're like punching it up as. And folks, it delivers. Like, it totally delivers from page 1. It's so good.
That's the thing about Domino Volume 2 is that it says, hey, I'm a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell a super cool comic book story. Like, here's a more modern comp that may be, I think, actually very familiar for people. Y'all know the Chris Samney and Mark Waid Black Widow? The one where it was the Chris Samney and Mark Waid Black Widow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This shares a lot of that same energy of let's just let this artist go crazy. And Adam, I love it. I love it when comics artists get to go crazy on spy stuff. I love Old Dog from Declan Shalvey right now. Like that Black Widow series. I love Domino Volume 2 because it's just them doing a spy story with Domino and incredible visuals.
Yeah. I mean, the very first scene is her, like, we're just jumping right into the scene of her crashing through a window. We don't know what her target is, but she's being fed instructions over an earpiece. She gets the contraband that she's supposed to, jumps back out the window. She's already being told she's running late, like jumps on a motorcycle, jumps over the cops, like it's so exciting. And then we're immediately cutting to other things. We're cutting to a hacker. We're cutting to the person that, hired her for this job, who, is this very, very interesting character that fits right into kind of the Mission Impossible thing of like the guy behind the desk that's, sending on the crazy missions. And all of this stuff is just fascinating. I'm just spellbound by it immediately. And we realize very quickly what Domino is out to do. She wants to find her mother. So unlike the last book where, it was a little bit unclear, like what the motivation was here, we've got a very, very direct idea of what Domino wants, the emotions behind it. And there's a complex set of steps that it takes to get to that information, and also some surprises along the way, which is a lot of fun.
It is. I think it's really exciting to see. It's a fun look at it. Listen, it paints Domino essentially as the bad girl spy character. And there is a larger conversation to be had about, well, is that the only way for a woman to be an action character? And that's a very valid conversation. But Domino's already that, so why don't we do the best thing we can with it and do it really cool? Like, here's the thing. Nothing about this, like, I don't know if nothing about this has to be Domino, but that's just more because Domino is a pretty generic character outside of her design, all things considered. She's kind of, flippant about doing spy stuff, but really, really cool and level-headed and excited about a lot of things, and incredibly talented at everything. But it executes everything so well in this. Like, that it's like, oh, is her handler going to betray her? Oh no,
Mhm.
he got fridged and now she feels bad about it. And oh, he wishes he could be out in the field with her, but he can't because he's on crutches. It's this,
Mhm.
like, there's a lot of like, yeah, I've seen this movie or I've seen this beat, but it's done so well that I don't even mind. Like,
I
it's done in a way to evoke, like, this is the familiar beat that you're trying to get out of this. We are trying to give you a spy movie. We're giving you the spy movie things. We recognize they're the spy movie things, but look how well we're playing with our toys.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the hidden, mini discs. There's, hackers hacking into databases. There, are secret military operations happening here. And one of the things that we have to note is that Stelfreeze, among other things that he draws incredibly well, the fight sequences in these books are some of the best things I have ever seen in a comic book ever. I'm not being hyperbolic here. Like,
No,
they
you're
are
not.
simply incredible. Like, if people remember when I went off about the Paul Smith Wolverine Silver Samurai sword fight, I'm not kidding. The way that these are drawn are on that level. There is this amazing scene where Domino finds a mini disc inside of a fish tank, and this group of villains that are known as the Arma Jesuits, they're basically like religious ninjas, right? Like, they're
Hey,
monks, but they're
fun
also
fact, just real quick. The Armor Jesuits are one of the best things in Marvel, and it's a shame that we are not constantly talking about the Armor Jesuits.
they look great, right? And there are just these sequences of action that are so clear, and the camera direction of where Stelfreeze is pointing the perspective, it's so clear what's going on in panel to panel. It's amazing. That's followed up by another sequence where her handler is attacked by them. It's just as good, you know. Um, he's being flipped out of his chair, and we learn that, like, his crutches have little spikes in them. So now he's fighting with those. And I I'm just blown away by this book. Now, you mentioned that Domino may just kind of be a blank slate, but I do think that this series also does a very good job of building out her backstory in an interesting way
Yes,
that does build her character, right?
I think
Because we
that I
do
think that's
learn,
absolutely fair.
yeah, we learn the basic components of what is her actual origin story, right? Which is this idea of
We
Project Armageddon, and
Which is
how
not a
her
Weapon
mother.
Plus thing, which is an
No,
easy opportunity to be like, by the way, and then this was Weapon 11. This is the one we
right,
forgot about. Here we go.
yeah,
This is the one. They could do that in a heartbeat, and everyone would say, okay, that's fine.
yeah. I'm very
But
glad
it
that it's
is,
its own thing.
I I think for the sake of this story, yes, but it has too many overlapping themes with everything else in, like, Weapon X, and in the general, hey, we trained you to be this super powered whatever for government blah 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 weapon secret thing. That's like, just tied it, like, at this point you could just say, and yeah, that was tied into this whole thing and it would all be clean, but it doesn't matter. That's
I
just like an
see.
opportunity if someone wants to go back to it.
Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to share universe and just say Project Armageddon was Weapon 11, I mean, sure, like, that wouldn't be a problem.
Go for it.
I get a little bit peeved, like, that everything has to be part of Weapon Plus all the time. Like, it doesn't
uh
all have to be the same shady
hold
organization.
on
There can be
hold on
many different shady organizations.
hold on, Adam, are you mad that they retconned brute force into being part of Weapon 2?
No, that's amazing. Come on. That's so
Are you
great.
mad that they retconned main thing into being Weapon 4, aka Weapon IV? Like,
Yeah, that's
Ivy?
pretty great. That's pretty great.
Hold
That's
on.
pretty great.
That the Weapon Plus stuff that Chris Robinson was trying to put together right before Oxbox is one of my favorite things to, like, think about what could have been. I don't
Yeah.
have a lot of pitches in the world because I don't write or draw or have anything to do with comics. Marvel, call me up if you want a Weapon Plus series. I got I got a Secret Weapon Plus series that you can use as a Venom series first. It's the whole thing. I got you. I got you down. Does it involve Red Hulk, but the good Red Hulk, the one with a mustache? Yes, it absolutely does.
Sounds great. I'm on board.
It's
So,
Adam, it's the best thing I've ever come up with, and I will never do anything with it.
yeah, so normally, like, I would spoil the ending of this. I don't know if I really want to. Like, there's some fun surprises that get to the end here with who Domino's mom is and what she encounters inside of the Project Armageddon facility. And it
And the
adds,
choices that Domino has to make in her life.
Yes.
It is, y'all, you know how everyone talks about how interesting Uncanny X-Force is and some of the ideas that get brought up in that.
Yep, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, for obvious reasons. Listen, this is almost kind of a better version of it. Like, I think Uncanny X-Force goes on for longer and does some interesting things with the repercussions of the themes, but this is also kind of like a better version of the best part of Uncanny X-Force.
No lie. I thought the exact same thing while I was reading it, and I was so happy with the way in which this wraps up, because it still opens, there's the doors open for, additional stories, and there are obviously things stemming out of this because of, all the world building that this does, but it also just exists as this very, very tight 4-issue mini that is one of, like, it's just one of the best things I've read in a really long time, and I'm so excited that we got a chance to talk about it. I highly recommend it.
Here's the thing. Did you like that part in Deadpool 2 where it was the good part and Domino did things?
That lasted for what, 5 minutes?
Yeah, but the good part.
Yeah.
The good part of Deadpool 2?
Sure.
Everything you like about that is in this. It's fun. It's charming. It's beautiful. I cannot say enough good things about Stealth Freeze in this. Like, it's a mastery of the form. Like, he understands comics, and Pruitt, to his credit, knows exactly he knows who the star of the show is.
Yep.
He knows that he's there to get out of the way and let his artist do the work. And folks, if I wanted to read a novel, I'd go read a novel. If I want to read a comic, I want to see something cool. I want the visuals to mean something. I want it to add up, and I want the storytelling to be done with the comic part of the comic. You want to tell me a story? I can hear a story a billion different ways. I can only get a comic in one way, and I want the comic, dang it.
It's living testament to how important the artist has to be as part of the storytelling of a comic book. And that's what makes it so successful. So I have a feeling this is going to do pretty well on the list. I'm very interested to see where it ends up.
I mean, this is a top 100 story. No questions asked.
Absolutely. This is a top 100 story. So right now at 100, we have the Shiva scenario. This is top 100.
This is better. This is better than 54. We have Chamber 1 through 4 around this same time. This is better than that Chamber series. And I like that Chamber series a lot.
No, this is definitely better than that. All right, here's one for you, Zach. Past Fears, Cable 155 to 159. I think this is better.
I'm turning around. I'm looking at my piece of art.
I know.
Cable 150. I mean, it's better than. Sorry. Brian Stelfreeze is really good, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
Now we're getting into it, though. Top 50 is tough. There's some really amazing stuff in here.
Top 50 is tough, but let's look at it. Havoc and Wolverine Meltdown is at 41. That's another artist showcase.
Yep.
It's a 2 artist showcase, but it's an artist showcase. How do you feel about it compared to this?
I think we're getting right up there because as a standalone story, I think this is just absolutely a masterclass in comic book writing and art, right? Where we really bump up to it, I think, is when we get into like the top 40, because then we're getting into like really classic Uncanny X-Men territory, right? That's where we've
Stuff
got
that marries like what we love about X-Men to
yeah.
world-class storytelling.
Exactly.
That's the
exactly.
trick. That's the only downside of this is that it doesn't have to be an X-Men thing. You could just sell this as here's Spy Lady, and it would be great, and we would still talk about it. But like, I think part of the reason why this doesn't get talked about is because if you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what X-Men thing do I need to read because I like X-Men? Domino Volume 2 is never going to be on the top of the list, and that's a shame because this is good.
It is. It's really good. Oh man, I'm really bumping up against it though. You know, like I think my gut is telling me to put it at 41, right above Meltdown and right below The Trial of Magneto, but I feel like I could be convinced into going higher because I'm also looking at other things. I don't know.
I'm going to make a pitch here.
Go ahead.
And this is a pitch that I think is reasonable, maybe a little aggressive, but I want us to have to think about this.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I want this. My absolute ceiling is number 30, Wounded Wolf. That's Uncanny 205, which does a very similar like thing, but in a very tight package. Barry Windsor Smith is killing it. I think that's like, I could not look any higher than that.
I don't think I would go higher than the Phoenix Saga at 34. I mean, that's just like classic stuff, right?
Okay,
there.
Okay, I think we're looking at the exact same spot because I was looking right at that Brood Saga, Life Death 2, Phoenix Saga, Return of the Sentinels stuff.
Right. And then right
Return
below
of the Sentinels,
that is,
which was also Project Armageddon.
Yeah. And right below that is What If Magic, which is also like a really amazing tiny story that like hits you in the gut. Amazing art, amazing writing.
It hits you in the gut. It hits you in the heart. Hey, by the way, if you haven't read Rare Flavors by What If Magic artist Felipe Andrade and Ram V, get your butt to the comic shop and get Rare Flavors. It's one of my favorite comics of the year already.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
It's so good. I would give this I would put this above that. I would put it right under Life Death 2, above the Phoenix Saga. But I think probably the better place for us would be below the Phoenix Saga, above the Sentinels coming back and going into space.
You know what? That is an appropriate place for that. This is like, bravo. This is just really good comics. So Domino Volume 2 at 35. Wow.
I'm not surprised.
Best showing of a comic in a long time. So we got one more volume of Domino. This is volume 3, and I think it's probably another one that a lot of our listeners are familiar with.
More people would be familiar with this because it's more recent. It came out concurrently with the movie. It's by Gail Simone and David Baudion.
Love Baudion's
It's 1
art.
through 6. On number 5, Michael Scheifer does the actual pencils, but Baudion does the breakdowns and layouts. So.
Yeah, which is kind of understandable. I mean, what Baudion is doing here in these issues is pretty remarkable. So it's pretty great that he does the whole series.
I want to start with the cover on this because I think it's very telling to a lot of things. One, the actual official cover on this book is nearly offensively by Greg Land.
Nearly offensively? Just
honestly, the cover's on all of Domino Volume 3. It's Greg Land, and then who does there's a second arc, and it's by Gong Hyuk Lim, who has just like a hella cheesecake style that I don't appreciate. I believe is Baudion. Yeah. Oh no, you get RB Silva on the covers for Hot Shots, which is the follow-up to that, which is honestly so much better and so much in line with what Baudion is doing. Because Baudion's doing a fun thing. But you look at here, the first 3 variants they have of this are a David Baudion variant showing off the new costume, which is an incredibly good costume that pulls in this like light blue into the equation that somehow ties everything together and is the look for Domino forever now. Like, that's just what Domino
still
wears.
wearing it. Still wearing it in X-Force.
Read a comic today. I was like, hey, she's still wearing that costume.
Yep.
Good job, David.
Yeah.
Also in Elsa Chartier and if you really wanted to go, the Elsa Chartier cover is just beautiful. But if you really wanted to go cheesecake, they had a J. Scott Campbell waiting for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are they
But
doing?
honestly, that Baldion cover is way better with the red stripe and like Domino holding the giant. That's sick.
That Baldion cover is so good. I think this was my first real moment where I got to see David Baldion's work, or at least recognized it. And you recognize it from the start that it is something special. And I'd read stuff with him before. Like I've read X-Men Legacy that he had done.
Sure.
But nothing clicked as, oh, this is a guy to watch out for before Domino. And then he had a great streak with Domino, Gwenpool Strikes Back, X Factor, Baldion on another level.
He's outstanding. Where do you fall? So we've talked about Baldion at length recently in our X Factor.
Baldion good. Baldion good, everyone. Go buy Render by Baldion and Leah Williams whenever it comes out eventually.
It's just an outstanding artist. Where do you fall on Gail Simone? Simone is notorious as this Twitter figure who likes to kind of just put out these nonsense tweets and bait the internet community and trend.
Love that for her. I had Gail Simone muted on Twitter for years, so I didn't have to see it because her specific brand of Twitter content annoyed me.
Yeah.
It just
I think that's fair.
Not even in the I got tilted way. I was like, this is annoying. I just don't want this. And I'm not a big DC guy, so I haven't read like Birds of Prey or what is Secret 6 or whatever it is. I haven't read a lot of Gail Simone stuff outside of Marvel. So I can't say, Secret 6, I was right. Man, I know things sometimes. I can't say that I am like a big Gail Simone head. I find her writing to be fine, but her and I have a different sense of humor. And I feel like her humor is very tied to a specific era that was right before like when I was coming up. Like it feels like the jokes people were telling before I was a teenager.
Okay.
And how they were telling jokes right before I was a teenager. So it always feels a little old to me, even when it's like not that.
I totally see what you mean, that there is a style of, and I think that is what is like the hit or the miss part of this series for readers, is whether they can sync up with what Simone is doing on the humor side. Because I think it's a lot easier to connect with the sort of found family aspect of what she does with Domino, Outlaw, and Diamondback, and the other recurring characters in this story that have created this little team of, mercenaries that are going to go off and do missions and get sidetracked by this like supervillain that came out of Domino's backstory as a retcon.
So I want to jump in right there. I don't disagree with the found family. Like, oh, look, they're best friends. It's weird how much this book in the first issue insists that these guys have always been friends and they are always each other's best friends, when, as far as I know, none of them had ever met each other until right now. Like this book just, and that's a me problem, but I was like, I know Domino wasn't messing with the Serpent Society, so I know she don't know Diamondback. And I checked because I haven't read it. I haven't read this part, so I checked. Domino doesn't show up in like Agent X or all the stuff that Outlaw is from, a character that I have known existed. And I'm like, I'm sure Gail Simone has done great work with her, but also a character that like J. Scott Campbell would draw a lot of.
Sure. Right. I mean,
and that seemed to be her entire purpose as I have known the character.
Yeah. I mean, Simone is purposefully putting these three femme fatale, sexy characters together and putting them on missions. And yes, they've only, by the stories telling, known each other for a couple of months. They've only been doing missions for a short period of time. But you're right. They are like bosom buddies, as if they've been friends since childhood. But it works. It's in the story's favor.
Me. It's hard for me to get that. That is one of the best parts. Is that they are friends. specifically Inez is ride or die for Domino in a way that
Yeah.
it is very fun to see, and you buy in that they are friends.
Mhm.
What I buy in less, one, Domino gets a dog at the beginning of this that's called Pip, and I'm like, that's cute, but it feels like they gave Domino a dog because they gave Hawkeye a dog in that Good Hawkeye series, and people keep being like, let's just give the superhero an animal in issue 1, and we'll hope it's good, and then maybe they can buy an apartment building and be a landlord. And Domino doesn't buy an apartment building in this. She commandeers a steamboat, which is weird.
They do own that is their
Like
headquarters.
a casino boat.
Right. Like she has her apartment, but then they also commandeer the casino boat. I don't know. There's some weird, quirky things about this story that are just kind of weird.
Adam, it is so quirky. It is so quirky.
It is also much more of a Marvel Universe book than I would have thought, because the couple things, right? First issue has a big party with a lot of Marvel Universe characters, not just X-Men. We also get a rescue from Spider-Man in the second issue, and then Amadeus Cho's Hulk becomes a major cast member in these first 6 issues. He's like kind of part of the team. He's the 4th person. So this is not just an X book. It is connecting itself to the larger fabric of the Marvel Universe. And I think that's an interesting approach.
And I think that's a perfectly fine approach, specifically for Domino, a character who is so, like, Domino's not sitting there like, man, am I on Charles' side or am I on Magneto's side?
No,
How do
she
I
does not
feel
care
about
about
the
that.
specific applications of getting mutant rights? No, Domino's like, I want money and I have a gun.
Mm-hmm.
She's great and I love her. She's done nothing wrong.
No, and I do think that, Gail's take is different than what we just read in Domino Volume 2, for sure. There's definitely a much more comedic take, but there's also a lot of tragedy involved in this story. So the villain is this character named Topaz, who seems to be with this old man in the beginning, and it turns out that he is like the anti-Domino. So every time that her luck powers worked, he became injured because of it. Topaz developed this like deep hatred for her because she fell in love with this guy, and now she's out to get Domino, which leads to what I think is the most fun part of this first. What do we do? The first 6 issues here is that Domino needs to control her luck powers better. So she goes and trains with Shang-Chi, who she's got the hots for, and it's so much fun.
I like that part in issue 4. The problem with the Shang-Chi parts is twofold for me. And it all comes down to issue 5, where Baodian doesn't draw. He lays it out. And you can very clearly tell, like, these are still his layouts. Some of the, like, roughs are like, oh yeah, this is how Baodian would do some stuff. And they pick an artist that does a lot. Like, that meshes with Baodian's style. Unfortunately, it's a pale limitation. Right. And when 5 is 2 things. One, it is and here's all the cool moves that Domino learned from Shang-Chi. Mm-hmm. So you don't get the cool martial art fight at, like, you don't get the best artist for what needs to be the artist showcase. And while Baodian's, I liked Baodian's action, probably like character work and like character acting is his stronger suit. I do think his action's very dynamic, and I would have preferred it in this case. It seems like just a scheduling thing happened with this. That's part of comics. But also in the 5th issue, like, the anti-Domino guy dies, but Domino's in a completely different place. And, like, it feels like the story almost comes to a climax with Domino not even being around. And then it has to come to a climax again in the next issue. And I feel like pacing wise, it really throws things off at the end in a way that is pretty jarring.
What'd you think about, this is interesting, right? Because we've got a little bit of like branding synergy going on here, that in the culminating fight with Topaz, Domino shouts that she's a Disney princess.
I hate it, and I hate that it got posted around Twitter and Reddit and all this stuff all the time. Like, Listen, it's just humor is subjective.
Yep.
And there's some stuff that works for some people, some stuff that doesn't. That is the level of quirky self-awareness of I'm very connected to media that does not necessarily work for me, which is weird because, like, listen, I think Leah Williams is one of the funniest writers in comics, like, period.
Mhm.
And if someone said all of these exact same things but was talking about a Leah Williams book, I would sit in here and say, I disagree with you. But, like, I can't sit here and be like, no, I don't get it. I understand. And I am now on the other side of that equation with a writer that, like, just does not click with me.
I'm that is one of those moments where the humor generally works really well for me in this book, but it starts to go, all right, are we jumping out of character too much? You know what I mean? Like, I at a certain point can't imagine these lines coming out of these characters' mouths, you know. So it's one of few instances. Like, in general, I really like this book. I think Baldian's art is a huge part of it. I think the whole idea that she goes and, like, has this sexy training thing with Shang-Chi is a huge part of it. I enjoyed reading this quite a bit. But I do think that readers are going to bump up against some of the writing, and they might have a similar reaction to you.
Or they might not, and they might really like it. Like, humor books are so tough. I have learned this being that I have very specific, like, humor taste. Listen, I'm a different breed, Adam. I'm a little twisted when it comes to humor. And it's just like, end of the day, it's just like some things that I find fun. Adam, you've seen my social media posts, right?
Yes.
Do you think I post any of that stuff not laughing at myself when I say it? Like, oh yeah, no, this is great. This is a real banger. 1 like, let's go. Listen, we all have our different we all have what makes us laugh. And that's never going to be the same for everybody.
You're talking to a guy who's still quoting an MTV skit show from the 90s, and no one knows what I'm talking about when I quote The State. So, like, I totally get it. I think there's just different iterations of what tickles people's funny bones. And I think this series is going to hit really well for a lot of people. And then other people might look at it and say, maybe this is a little too far afield from what I expect of the character. But I have to recommend it because the Baldian art is just so good. I love looking at it. I enjoyed reading it, but I don't think it rises nearly to the heights of what we were just talking about with Volume 2. So where do you think it goes on the list?
My dude, that's a question that you need to ask when I'm not on a different tab. I'm now back on the list tab.
Okay. Is this a 200s book, a 300s book, a 400s
let's
book?
see.
Like,
At 203 is Extermination, and I like Extermination better than this.
yeah. I mean, down at 300, we have Hearts of Darkness. I like that better than this.
Hearts of Darkness better than this.
But is it better than...
Hey, another Domino story.
I think this might be better than the Weapon X Sabretooth in Charge arc at 400.
If Ricardo Lopez Ortiz drew that entire arc, no. But Ricardo Lopez Ortiz only draws part of it. In fact, like, Ortiz would have the same kind of energy that this book needs. Like, him and Bounty Hunt are pretty similar. And there is a callback to that book in this where a bunch of Domino's X's are around, and it's Colossus and Cable. And she's like, I like a big slab of man right here.
Like those big men. That's right.
Look at them big boy. Right. It's big boy season.
All right, so we're in the 300s. How far up do we want to go?
I'm looking. There's some...
I have a feeling you would not put this ahead of X-Men Black Mojo at 363.
I would not put this ahead of X-Men Black Mojo. It turns out that Scott Aukerman and I have more similar comedic tastes than Gail Simone and I. I don't know who could have thought of that.
I would put it ahead of Deadpool's Axis arc at 36 to 39 at 375, even though I do remember enjoying that.
That's probably right. I do want to put it below X-Men 2099, the Halloween Jack stuff.
That's fine.
I
But I
like
would put
Halloween
it,
Jack a lot.
yeah, I would put it above the all new X-Men Ultimate Universe crossover at 374.
We should have done the time that Domino met Halloween Jack in the regular universe.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Yep. Crazy
This is
stuff.
374. Y'all, that's an episode. We did
Yeah,
it. We
was
did
good.
it.
We still don't know how to play dominoes, but we sure know how to read it.
I'm not an old man. I don't need to play dominoes right now. But I bet Mac McThorne does need to know how to play dominoes. And if you want to be like him, just do the thing I said earlier. It's Patreon, Battle of the Atom. Do
Absolutely.
it. Adam,
Check
what's
it
up?
out. Support. Guys can always follow me on social. Adam Reck on Blue Sky, Adam Reck on Instagram, or Arthur Stacy on Twitter. And gearing up for New York Comic Con. Got that coming up.
NYCC 2023?
Yeah. Heading up there with some folks, not this week. So you'll be getting a special, not next week, but in the coming future. And I'm getting excited about that. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, because do you know what we're doing next week?
We have a fun episode next week. What are we doing, Zach?
We're doing a bunch of Krakoa stuff. Someone wanted
Cool.
us to do all Krakoa stuff, and we said, okay, that's fine.
Great.
So
my swim
we're
trunks.
gonna be talking about. We can't say we're doing all Krakoa, but JK, we're doing about the island Krakoa because we already did that bit like 3 years ago.
Yeah. This is like Krakoa era, right?
This is like these are X-Men comics that have come out since 2019, but not before 2021. So it's in like that prime, the Pando region, the prime Pando region right there.
I like that. It's gonna be a good one.
It's going to be exciting. But until then, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survive the experience.
Get it!